are we talking about tonight?
So this is Lori Vallow and
Lori Vallow.
And the 2020 episode, it was called The Gravedigger's Wife. And honestly, that's the worst title I've ever heard for this.
Yeah, because if you look at Gravedigger, there's like some other thing.
Well,
like
my main issue with it, they put it felt like an afterthought. Like they casually mentioned one sentence in the beginning. They're like, oh yeah, and by the way, Chad Daybell was once a gravedigger. And you're like, okay, so that's why they call it The Gravedigger's Wife. I'm like, there's so many wild things about Lori.
But she had 5 husbands, so why are we like?
And neither of those 2 kids were hers biologically.
The daughter?
No, so she has a biological son from her first or second marriage. But the daughter was from her 3rd marriage, and it was her husband's daughter, not hers. And then the little boy JJ was actually adopted from Charles. I think the 4th was Charles' sister's grandchild. So yeah, neither of them, Charles, neither of them was related to her, which I wonder, I was like, kind of like, well, if they weren't related, maybe she didn't care that much for them. But I mean, the documentary said she was a really good mom up until like she went crazy.
Apparently not.
I mean, it's when you start following the cults, things get a little off the rails.
Right?
Just like a little. But I think Alex Cox was like the star of this docuseries. Like
her brother?
Yeah, her brother. And I wonder too, they said, they like kind of mentioned, they were like, oh, he's a little bit off. And I was like, I bet she manipulated the whole thing. Cause like that shooting was weird.
Yeah.
Like Tylee and Lori were in the house. The whole fight started because Lori was like, oh, Charles left his cell phone on the table. You know what I should do? Go through it. And then when he came back in to get it, he was like upset because she's going through it and she wouldn't give it back. And then all of a sudden she's like, he's crazy. Why is he upset that I'm going through his phone? What's on his phone that I can't see? It's like everything. You're separated or divorced.
So I have an issue with that. And it's not so much. And when I've been a crazy bee at times, I've been known to invade others' privacy. But as a whole, I don't think that it's okay to go through someone else's phone or messages, because it's one thing to invade your significant other's privacy. I mean, because when you're, especially if you've been married for 20 years, like there's really no privacy at that point. But you're invading the other person that they're talking to's privacy. And that's where I think it crosses the line, because they're talking to your spouse in confidence, assuming that person is the only person that sees, or your boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever it is you're talking to, or just your friend, like, so I'm very big on, like, I don't even read Lillian's messages, like, unless like I'm checking to make sure creepers aren't messaging her, type thing. Like if she has the filtered messages or something. But like I'm very big on privacy in that aspect, that when you're confiding in someone, like if I'm messaging you and confiding in you, I'm assuming you're the only person who's going to read that, other than it being on the internet.
Yeah.
And like maybe some FBI agent, but not, someone I may know or meet at some point.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't think that's right.
It's the expectation of privacy.
Yeah.
But
even if your significant other doesn't have that expectation, whoever is messaging them does.
Yeah.
And so
you're
invading everybody's privacy, not just theirs.
Yeah. It was crazy too, just that like they were divorced, and the documentary said like it had been a few minutes. It wasn't like he left his phone there for hours. Like he literally left the property and went, oh shoot, my phone, turned around, and she's already, on his phone, like digging through it. And I'm like, you're not together anymore. Why is your first instinct to just like pick up his phone and dig through it?
Yeah.
And then it started a fight so violent that your brother had to shoot him. And then they said too, Alex was like, oh, he hit me in the head with a baseball bat. And then they showed his head and there's like no damage whatsoever. And he was like, oh, I did CPR on him. He had 2 bullet holes in his chest, but he like has no blood on him. So it's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And then Tylee and Lori went to take JJ to school. Like, oh, my ex-husband was just murdered in front of me and my daughter. Better take my son to school.
Right? Like, something that she ain't right in the head.
And they stopped at Burger King too. And I think they said that like JJ had special needs, so like they want to keep the routine. But I was still like, I don't know. If my ex-husband got shot in my house, I think I might have skipped Burger King and let the school deal with my stepson being like a crazy person. So, but yeah, that whole thing
is just weird.
Yeah. And then his quickie marriage after, where he's like, no pictures, no vows, no flowers, you know, and like he didn't even tell his family that he was married.
Yeah.
Like, what are you
doing? Yeah, and when their mom was like, I didn't even know he was married. I'm like, how do you know your kid's freaking married?
Yeah.
Like, and then she was, talking about her kids and how well she knows them and stuff. Like, you didn't even know one was married. Like, I don't think you really know your kids that
well. I mean, it was a quickie marriage, but it was still one of those things. I'm like, you tell your mother. I mean, after the fact, like it'd been 2 weeks.
Unless you really don't have a good relationship with your mom,
Yeah. Which, I mean, honestly, she gushed about her daughters in the beginning, talking about how great they were, and like she didn't even mention Alex at all. And I was like, he's dead, and you didn't say it. Like, oh, my son Alex who passed away. Like, she just like, I wouldn't have even known until like got there, and it's like Lori's brother, and I was like, why did her mom not say anything?
Oh,
I didn't trust that. And then the fact that they moved to Idaho immediately. And then the weirder part about that was that Chad Daybell, who Lori was obsessed with, moved a month later. And I was like, okay, he moved a month later to be close to her. And then
cute. Like he was like an ugly old dude.
And then they're like, oh, he moved a month later to be closer to her. And then they're like, oh, and by the way, he's married. And I was like, he's married? And he's like chasing this woman, and his wife like didn't be like, hey, sweetheart, why are we moving across states to be closer to this random woman? Huh?
He was the cult leader though, right?
He was. Yeah. Well, I don't think it was like, it wasn't officially a cult, but he had like doomsday theories.
Those kind of people like brainwash everyone. And so they, well, God wants me to also be in love with this person.
Yeah. So like,
more power to you, but it doesn't need to be through brainwashing. It needs to be through mutual agreement between all parties.
Yeah, so I thought that was crazy.
There are right and wrong ways to do this.
There are.
There really are.
It was like, I'm just going to move me and my wife to this random town. And, look, this woman who's obsessed with me also happens to live here. What a nice coincidence.
Yeah.
And then his wife dies two weeks later. And he goes, oh, I'm good. I don't want an autopsy. You're like, okay. Yeah,
it's not up to you at this point. The state's gonna decide that.
I was gonna say it wasn't up to him. He said no, but the fact that he quickie married Lori, the state was like, that's weird.
Like, that's what I don't understand though. Like, it was what I was saying about he's not cute. Like, why are you obsessed with this dude? Like,
it's the power. It's all about that power.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a superficial asshole. Like, you don't have to be the best looking person to win my heart, by any means. Like, you just have to be interesting and not, you got to keep my brain entertained. But I mean, her obsession with him to the point of murdering her own children, like, he had better look like God at this point.
Well, she thought that he was God. That was what it was that she became obsessed with his writing first. And then she met him like 2 years later, and then she became more obsessed with him. And then she started going to like events with him. And then her husband died.
I don't understand that. There's this dude that gives these ghost tours up in Missouri. And he's this really old dude. He looks like Santa Claus. I mean, I could see myself doing that with him.
Backup plan.
Kidding. Me and my cousin and one of my friends, and then one of at the time, my right hand in the gaming crew. It was the first time I ever met him in person. we went on a ghost tour up there because he lived close to that area. And me and my cousin were just like gawking over how we're like, oh my God, he's so cute for such an old man. He's got like a big white beard and his hair was just wild and just sticking out everywhere like Einstein.
I'm a sucker for them wild haired old men.
No, but then he said that he sells old looking dolls on eBay and people pay a shitload of money for them. And he's like, all I got to do is just go to like a yard sale and buy a doll. And then I strap it on my fence and let the weather beat it up. He's like, and it's a great thing because then all the kids in the neighborhood think I'm a creep and nobody comes to my yard.
That's
so I was like, I love this guy. I just love him.
You're like, sir, can you hold on? I need to take notes.
So perfect. Like he's being a creep just for his own amusement and to make some extra cash. Like, that's so much of a person.
That's some ingenuity right there.
I know. Anyways,
but yeah, it's all about the power. She fell in love with him because of the power, and then she thought that he was like the second coming, and like he convinced her that she was a guy because that's what Charles Vallow said before he was killed. He was like, she thinks that she's, the savior because he told her that she's like immortal and that she's the key to the second coming. And so it was weird.
There is nobody in the entire world that could convince me that they are God or the second coming of Jesus or whomever, because I would be like, I'm sorry, but you have a mental health problem.
We keep missing it too. They said that the second coming was supposed to be July 2020. It did not happen.
No, it did not.
So, but the actual disappearance was weird too, because all of that happened before the wedding, like right after Lori moved them. She went on that day trip to Yellowstone, and I think it seems like she killed Tylee there. And my assumption, I think that she did it because Tylee saw the murder of Charles and she was getting squirrely about it because it was just Lori, Alex, and JJ and Tylee, and she was getting squirrely about it. And Lori and Alex were like, you are not fucking this up for us. Like, we got away with this. Like, you are not going to do it. And they killed her because they said her body was like badly burned and dismembered. So I'm thinking they like tried to get rid of it and like it did not work.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of her. I don't know why they would have killed JJ.
Let's say I go off the deep end and murder somebody and my kid watches. Like, I would be like, okay, I guess I'm going to prison so that you can get this off of your conscience because your life is worth more to me than my own life, because that is what a parent does. That is part of being a parent.
You would think, but
that is kids before you. It's not even hard for me to do. Like,
no,
my kids just come first. It's a simple concept.
Yeah, I feel like when you're that deep down the rabbit hole where you like murder your ex, like I think
trust nobody enough to be down the rabbit hole. Like, there ain't nobody I trust that much.
But yeah, but that's how people fall into cults. Like they cling to this like one thing, and they have to believe in one thing.
Now, I would join a cult.
Yeah.
Because I'm like a little investigator and I want to know what the fuck's going on. Like, I swear to God, I will dedicate my life to something for years. I've done this before to see what the hell goes on. I'm not going to say on here what it was.
Did you?
I don't want anybody to know what it was that was part of it. But I did it because I'm nosy as hell and I wanted to know what was going on. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to find the fuck out. I'm going to find out. I'm dedicating my life to this.
And did you?
I did do it. And it was one of the most empowering experiences of my life. I did learn a lot of shit. And I really came in tune with a lot of things I didn't even know really existed. But it wasn't a cult. Luckily, that one wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just like a belief system. But I mean, initially, when I first got into it, it really was just that I want to know what this is.
Did you watch the movie Midsummer?
No.
So
I
it's
don't
this
know. It sounds familiar. I might have.
it's a horror movie, and it's, you know, these kids, these college kids who go to Iceland, and they like, one of their friends is like, oh, come back to my home with me. You're gonna come to Iceland. It's beautiful. You'll love it. So they go there, and it's a full-on cult. Like, it's very hardcore cult, but it's also beautiful, and it's set in like the gorgeous mountains, and everybody loves each other, and everybody's sharing. And then they have weird things like when you are when you're a certain age, you basically just go and sacrifice yourself. Like, there's a cliff, and when you reach a certain age, you go with anybody else who is also that age, and you just toss yourself right on off that cliff because you are no longer considered a useful part of society, and you like consider it like. So
what about the leader?
The leaders never have to kill themselves. That's why it's a cult. But yeah, they had like, but I'm watching this movie, and I'm coming out of it, and I'm watching with one of my friends, and you know, people are like horrified, and I'm reading the reviews on, people are like, oh my God, this is terrifying, this is blah blah, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, that looks super cool. I would 100% join that call. Like, that seems, because I mean, I'm all for it. Like, they had
like,
it in
right,
stages.
I'm gonna jump off this cliff. Psych.
Yeah. Well, they were like, well, there was one of the people that jumped off the cliff did not die. And so like, you just have to like listen to them die until they actually do die. So it was like, it was a terrifying movie. It was crazy. And there was like a ton of twists and turns. So it's definitely a great movie, but it was super weird, and it was about cults. And I was like, I would join it. It looks like fun.
We need to do an episode just on cults sometime. Yeah. Oh, let's join a cult and then do a report on it.
Okay.
Like, I'm totally serious. I would totally.
I don't remember what I was watching. Oh,
no, I ain't taking my kids or nothing, but like,
no, don't take your kids. we need somebody to get us out.
Right.
When we sit there and we're like,
not that my opinionated little asshole kids would even go anyways. They're like, fuck that shit. I ain't you doing that.
Yeah,
right. Go on your own. Bye, bitch. Bye, Felicia.
When I was watching the 2020 special, one of the people that was on it was like a cult expert, and he wrote a book, and they're like, author of this. So I'm immediately like looking it up, and I was going to buy it, but I stopped because they were like, listen, it reads like a technical manual. It's not like fun cult stories. I was like, oh, I really wanted fun cult stories.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do a technical manual.
Yeah, I want to join a cult.
Yeah, they seem fun. They seem very based on like togetherness and happiness. And I feel like if I was in a cult, I could really devote myself to like being a better person, which I don't have the energy to do right now. And you know, it's the same reason I want to go to prison, so I can focus on my fitness, like all of my life and my job and all of that.
We're going to prison away so I can get fit.
Because what else?
I have no other choice. So
yeah. Your only option is just work out all day or be bored. Like, everybody comes out looking jacked. That's
I'm too lazy. I would such like, I guess I'm just gonna lay here on this concrete and then whine and cry because my back hurts all the time.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna do. Oh God, I really hope I don't ever go to jail, knock on wood. I really don't want to go to jail. I haven't done anything, but
that you know of.
No, I haven't. I really haven't. I don't do anything that would put me in jail.
The DNA.
I really need to live life.
I think I'm too old for that stuff. I'm like, if I was going to go to jail, if I was going to do bad things with my life, like it would have happened by now. Like, I'm clearly not going to be a person that like does bad things. And that's very upsetting because, you know, thought I would be, but no.
I like my freedom. Like, I'm too opinionated, which is why my kids are, because they get it from me. Like, I would not make it in jail. And I'm too, like, I'm a sarcastic smartass. And so, like, I would be correcting people because they're grammatically speaking in really bad ways, as if I am right now talking grammatically correct. But I'll be like, that's not how you say that. And they'd be like, bitch. Like, I'm just trying to make you better. Like, oh, you think you're better than me? And then, oh my God, it would not.
And then you're like, listen, I don't want to answer that question.
It's not that I think that I'm better than you. It's just that, I mean, I've made better choices in life.
You're like based on the facts that I've seen.
Let's see each other's rap sheet, shall we? Like, I'm kidding.
And that's how Lindsay ends up in solitary for her own protection.
I actually would probably do something just to get in solitary, just so that I would not have to deal with other people.
I don't know. I couldn't be alone with my thoughts for that long. Because like it's literally just you by yourself with nothing to do. Like I don't think they give you stuff to
I have
do.
my la land. I'd be good. Like I'll
I couldn't
entertain
do it.
myself.
My drive is too long, so I like think all the time when I'm driving, and I'm like getting home, and I'm like, that was dark. I'm gonna need to do something better. Like get me alone with my thoughts in the car. I'm like, how did I get there? I'm like, driving home super happy, and then all of a sudden I'm like everything is awful. You're gonna be upset, and I'm like, how?
So yeah, so what did you think about whenever they were finding the bodies and the dude's just like chilling in his vehicle and they're like, oh shit, they done dug him up. I guess I better leave.
Well, that's exactly it. It was just such a weird thing where he's just like it was almost cocky. Like he was like they're not going to find those bodies. There's no way they'll find those bodies that were poorly hidden on my property.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and then the second that they're found, he drives off.
Always
Like,
find them. They're going to find them.
Yeah, you're like, the second that they start digging on your property, you should have left. Like even
other than that mom in Missouri that killed her kid and her husband or whatever. Her husband and the kid watched it, and then years later she kills the kid so that she can get the grandkid and get rid of her witness so that she never gets proven. Like she has hidden some bodies. She's done a good job. We got to do a show on that one.
Okay. Yeah, no, you have to get rid of the witnesses. You cannot leave a witness because
one of the witnesses was her kid, so she kills the kid.
Well, I mean, like that's what Lori did. I mean,
yeah.
Tylee was, and I believe she killed Alex. They said it was natural causes. They said it was blood in the lung or something. I bet she did it.
Yeah, blood getting that lung. She did something.
Like I have to believe that she did something because it's a loose end. And she couldn't have a loose end. So it's like, okay, this guy has seen me, he killed my husband and he saw me, or he did kill my daughter, and he's got to go. Like I can't possibly have that.
Like in today's world, you're not going to get away with much. I mean, they can test everything. Like we were talking about the phones. They can track everywhere you've been.
Well,
and let's say you don't even take your phone. You just wear your Fitbit or something. They're going to find a way to figure out who the hell was there. So it's just not worth it.
Yeah, well, because that's how they found him, because after Alex died, they got cell phone data.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's weird. Why was he in this square of Chad Daybell's property? Let's dig there. Oh, there's a body. And they're like, yeah. But
that's the first thing. If I was going to kill someone, but I'm not going to kill anybody. But if I was, I would not be taking my phone with me.
Yeah.
Like, how old were these people? They could not have been young because
no, they were older.
Yeah,
they were. But you know what?
Had to be older.
But you know what though? The taking your phone with you to a crime scene. I mean, that's not like dedicated to older people. I mean, that's how they got a lot of people for that January 6th insurrection, because they all had their location data turned on their phone. They're like, hey, all of you people that were at the Capitol, like, gotcha.
I mean, even if you turn your location data off, I feel like it's
still there. Yeah, they can still. So
like, just don't take your phone.
No, don't take your phone.
Criminals, don't take your fucking phone.
You have to
anywhere.
You gotta get dropped
Not
off.
that I'm trying to be an accomplice to your criminal activity, because don't be doing crimes in the first place.
Yeah. The key is don't do crimes. Like, just don't. But if you're going to, like, just be smart about it. Like, it's one of those things.
What?
They can track your car. So get dropped off somewhere else. Walk. Don't take your phone. Don't wear a watch. Don't do any of those things. And just like do your criminal activity and then walk back to somewhere and get picked back up. Like, And then something else that's upsetting about that case is that nobody's being charged with murder itself.
Yeah.
Because they
don't know
they
who
can't
did
prove they can't
Yeah.
prove who did it, so they can't charge him with murder. And I was like,
That's all that.
I hate that.
So speaking of what people are getting charged with, I have wanted to be on jury duty my entire life. Like I was looking forward to being an adult so I could be called on jury duty.
I really thought
Not
being
kidding.
part of a jury was a
Never
more public thing. Yeah.
been called for jury duty. I'm like, I'm sure they probably just look me up and see that I'm an opinionated bitch, and they're just like, we don't want her. Just remove her from the list. We don't even want her called in for selection. Like, just don't.
Yeah, that's why I don't get it. Like I was under the impression that like the second you turned 18, you went on a list and they just like went down the list for everything and like eventually you'd be called for jury duty. Never been called for jury duty.
Never. I'm really disappointed in it too. And see, like I seem like a very opinionated person, and I am, but I'm like a super fair person.
Yeah.
Like you can be my very best friend in the entire world, and I can put you above everyone else. But if I was having to be your judge in a trial, I would absolutely give you what is justified. Like I would be like, I love you, but
you're like, listen, this list of charges right here, it's pretty legit. I've had that too, where I'm like, I look at the facts.
I'm not gonna write you out.
No. Yeah, you're like, I won't.
But if I have to judge it, I'm gonna be fair.
Yeah,
like that type of thing. Like I'm really good at keeping secrets, but don't put me in a position to have to judge.
I've lost friends for stuff like that because I had a friend where I'm like, hey, they wanted to date one of my friends, and I'm like, okay, date my friend, but like just so you know, this is what could potentially happen. This is their like pattern, so just a heads up. And then the person does those things, and the person that is upset, they're like your friend did this and blah blah. I'm like, told you they would. I'm like, I can't feel bad for you because I told you that this would happen. They told you that this would happen. You were like, well, maybe I'm different. I'm like, I'm so sorry. But like looking at the facts, I'm like, I can't in good conscience take your side on this and like hate my other friend because both of us told you what they were about.
Yeah. So that was the Dateline 2020 episode. So if you've watched that, be sure to comment and tell us what you thought about that crazy bitch and killing her babies.